Well, I think we should get going. So, yeah, let's get going. So, my name is Eben. I'm the customer lead at Smileback, and thank you all for joining. As you probably know from signing up, we are going to be talking about improving your service with Smileback. In our webinars, we usually do a bit of a mix of the sort of general themes, theoretical stuff, and like some practical looking at the actually out Smileback itself. This one, I'm going to talk more about kind of ideas and processes, but we will take a bit of a look in Smileback itself. So just to go over the agenda then. First, we're going to cover the background. Why is this an important topic? Going to look at like acting on individual responses. Um, but then we're going to get into what I really want to talk about actually, which is kind of analyzing and understanding your feedback and then using that to improve your company. That's the biggest thing. We're going to look at talking about issues on a kind of a weekly basis, look a bit at monthly reports, and then we're going to talk about the kind of sum things up with the key points. Obviously, we'll finish with next steps as well. And yeah, I said I will be keeping an eye on the chat and the Q&A box. I may answer some questions as I go along. Certainly, I'll answer questions towards the end. It's just me presenting tonight. So please do write in with your questions. And yeah, oh, we've got someone, Jan, watching from the Netherlands. Hi. So yeah, first question is why bother? Who cares? Why take the time to collect feedback, look at feedback, analyze it? Well, improving your customer experience, one of the best outcomes from doing that is more loyal customers. And this is such an important thing, especially, if you're in an MSP or a SaaS business. I think that probably covers most of the people watching, but also, consumer brands, e-commerce, things like that. Keeping more, once you've got a customer, keeping that customer is so important because it can cost anywhere between 5 to 10 times more to recruit a new customer than it does to keep an old customer. And also a happy and loyal ongoing customer, they're more likely to recommend you to other people. They're more likely to buy more if you're selling services or items kind of one by one. They're more likely to expand if you have a more like an ongoing service type relationship. And ultimately that means higher profits for your business. But it can also help on the staffing side as well. So, I've been a frontline customer support person, and it's so demoralizing if you keep getting, the same bad feedback from customers and nothing ever changes. So, sometimes people can be a bit kind of think, well, are the staff going to like it if we collect feedback? Are they going to get put off by bad feedback? Um, and if it's done right, I think it can actually really be a motivating thing that can actually help you um, make your workplace a more rewarding place to work, help you retain staff, help you motivate staff, which again is so important to a healthy and thriving business. And finally, it's cost effective. What we're really looking at tonight is getting information from your existing customers, from your existing systems, your ticketing system, ConnectWise, Zendesk, Autotask, from Smileback, or if you're not yet a Smileback customer, whatever customer feedback platform you use, and using that to make your business better. This isn't kind of commissioning brand new research. This isn't running, expensive kind of outward-facing campaigns. This is looking at what are we already being told by the people who already work with our business, through the channels or the software we already pay to use, and how can we use that to do better? And then the next sort of background thing I want to talk about is I really want to drive home the idea that all feedback is good feedback. Don't be afraid of negative feedback. It's actually a gold mine. It can be so valuable to your business. The insights you get from the people who are unhappy but are willing to tell you about it, that's that's so important. And if you act on it and you use it well, it can really, really help you improve. But also, and good feedback, you know, don't overlook again how powerful good feedback can be. And what we see with Smileback is the customers on the CSAT side of things, so the reviews that are coming ticket by ticket, those green faces, most customers have a very high score. Most of their responses are positive. And that stream of green faces, sorry, you know, that's don't underestimate how powerful that is to your staff. Seeing that good feedback that they're doing a good job is one of those things that can really help motivate your staff. It can really help you understand your business and identify not just what's going wrong or what do we need to fix, but also what's going well. What should we double down on? And from working as the customer lead here at Smileback and working in other customer service jobs, that's certainly something I found that customers who tell you, I don't like this, or I wish you did this, or um, I'm frustrated by these things, acting on those, improving them is very important. But also customers are telling you what they do like when they give you good feedback. And I've certainly learned things, we've learned things as a company that people like it when we do certain things, when we communicate with them clearly, when we provide them with lots of updates, sometimes more updates than we thought was actually necessary or helpful. No, they like that. And so we do more of it and people keep being happy. So that's just the background. As I say, um, value your feedback, get the most out of your feedback. And just to reiterate, if you have any questions, use the chat, use the Q&A box here in Zoom. And, I've got them open. I'm keeping an eye on it. So I've talked a lot in some of our previous webinars about sort of setting up to act on bad responses, using things like automations, email alerts, our Teams and Slack integrations. And I'm happy to talk about those again with anyone who wants to learn more. But what I really want to focus on in this webinar is, analyzing and understanding feedback on a bit of a larger scale. But I do want to talk quickly about responding to like an individual bad response. So, if you get a negative or a neutral on the CSAT survey, or if you get a detractor or passive on NPS, what should you do there kind of right away? Move quickly. What the best thing, that I really see from our kind of leading customers is they often have a hard target around this. So they will respond, as long as it's during the working day, they will respond within an hour. They'll make the initial response, even if they don't have a solution yet. They'll get back to the customer and say, hey, we saw what you said, we got your feedback. Thank you for the feedback. Um, we're sorry things didn't work out here. And we'll get back to you with more details, or if they immediately know what to do, here's what we're going to do about it. And then, especially on the side of, if you're talking about something that relates to an individual ticket or an individual, a task that your team has been doing, having an open and honest discussion between your agent, or you might call them your techs, your engineers, and their manager is very, very important. And this isn't about kind of playing a blame game or like punishing people. It's about saying, okay, something's gone wrong here. The customer isn't happy, and it's our job, me and you, we're going to put this right. Tell me what happened, and as you understand it, walk me through the ticket. And what you get from that kind of pairing is the agent can give you their experience, which is very important. It's going to be subjective, but that's still very important. What is their understanding of what has happened, and why it ended, why it turned out how it did? And the role the manager can play there is being the outside, the outside perspective, and the person who's prompting with questions. Um, you know, when you sent this response to the customer, what were you thinking about? Or did you feel confident in the answer you were giving it when you gave it? Digging in, helping them reflect and like drawing out more information. And of course, prioritize resolving the issue for the customer. The next, I'm going to talk about the sort of longer term, digging into things or looking at stuff in the aggregate. Obviously, the first thing to do is resolve the issue for the customer. And as I was saying, having some kind of target or having targets like responding within an hour and reaching a sort of substantial resolution within a working day, 2 working days. That's a good idea. That's what a lot of our customers tell us they do. Um, and yeah, people will notice that. Your customers will notice it, and it's said a lot in this sort of customer service, customer experience world, but it is true. Having a bad experience that is then effectively put right is actually a really good moment, a really important thing, and it can actually help customers gain more confidence in what you're doing, and they'll often remember that quite fondly. I'll just tell you a little story. I was eating a snack bar, sort of fancy, raw vegan protein bar the weekend, and there was a piece of plastic actually inside. They'd gone, compressed into this bar, um, which shouldn't have happened, obviously. So I emailed them. I took a picture of it. I emailed it, and they wrote back to me. Within probably an hour or two, they'd written back saying, "Thank you for telling us. Uh, you know, we've gone right to our Q&A people. They're working on it. We really appreciate that you took the time, and let's make it right for you." And I actually I have more confidence in that company, even though there was, for whatever reason, a piece of plastic in my food, that at least they respond and they do something about it. And if you see in the chat, we are going to be dropping in some links to various things. So we've just dropped a link to an article about actually using feedback to improve your operations, which is obviously relevant to what we're talking to tonight. Any questions? No? Okay. So this is really the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight is, analyzing and understanding your customer feedback. And what we often talk about at Smileback is these 3 parts: collecting feedback, analyzing it, and then acting on it or leveraging it. Um, so I've just been talking about how to respond to a specific response from a customer. But after that, what do you do? It's often helpful to think of these on kind of timely cycles. So weekly, monthly, quarterly. Um, what do we do each week? What do we do each month? What do we do each quarter? And this is about, taking more time to dig into individual issues. It's about zooming out and looking at feedback in aggregate, and then it's about devising, practical next steps, like actually taking action. And I see we've got a question from Richard. I'll come back to that, Richard, because it's a very good question. Yeah, so what we do in Smileback is we have a weekly meeting. All the teams do this, but in the customer team specifically, we have a weekly meeting, and any bad review we get after one of our tickets or a neutral review, as well as immediately following up on that, or trying to follow up on that and resolve it as soon as we can. We'll then talk about it again the beginning of the next week. So we have a weekly meeting every Monday, and we'll talk about it then. And I'm actually going to go ahead a slide. So the point of this is you should have already responded to the customer. Hopefully you've already actually resolved their issue. But now this is about looking, what can we learn from it? So, we look again, what was the feedback from the user? You might put a link to the original ticket in there so you can actually dive into the details if you want, or people can do that kind of in preparation for the meeting. Then there should be analysis, so from the service lead or the the team lead, the service manager, whatever the exact structure of your company is. In our case, it would be me, the customer lead. What went wrong here? Based on looking at the details of the ticket, based on that discussion with the agent who's working on that ticket, if it wasn't myself. A suggestion for how to do better in the future, and an action item to put that to practice. And this is what it's all about, really. is these last two bullet points here. This is the real core of, improving what you do. So in this example here, this is, one of our kind of sample companies. I don't think the engineer really knew what he was doing. So this is one where you would look into like, why did they say that? What led to the customer feeling like the engineer didn't know what they were doing? And that might be something like the engineer actually didn't know what they were doing. You might need to train that engineer better. I might actually need to train all your engineers better because your company might not have, there might actually be a gap here. It might be something about documentation, or it might be something about the ticket communication, where they actually didn't diagnose or understand the problem properly before carrying on. And that's an easy thing to get wrong in customer service for sure. So then actually having some next step from that, which on a weekly basis, it might be something fairly small. It might be, okay, we're going to quickly review this with the service team. And we're going to come up with a few bullet points, a few little things like, what to check, what to learn more about. Or it might lead to something bigger, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So the idea here is you're really acting on the feedback you're getting, and you're really trying to kind of close the loop from you had this problem, you understood it, you learned about it, and now you're doing something to try and prevent it from happening again. And I'm not going to get like way into this, but there's a system out there called EOS that's very popular in the MSP world. We use kind of bits of it ourselves. You might have heard of a book called Traction. That is one way of helping you structure this kind of stuff. It's not the only way, but that's where some of this, that's something that's definitely been helpful to us. And I know is kind of growing in popularity in the MSP world. And if you want to talk, more about this, this is the kind of thing we can really help you with. I struggled a little bit with how to fit this onto one slide, but if you want, I can actually, make you a little sample, a template document and send it to you to help you do this. But really, it's quite simple, and whatever meeting format or software or presentation style you use, I think you can use some variation of this. And yeah, so Richard, Richard Sims asked, how do you best manage a client's expectations with a neutral review? I would say, we actually act on a neutral review in really the same way as we would with a negative review, Richard. So we try and get back to them very quickly, and we try and, we still try and resolve the issue for them. Obviously, in neutral review, they might less say like you got this thing really wrong, and it might be more like I don't know. I suppose neutral reviews can often be things like, well, they did solve the problem, but it took a bit too long, or they solved a problem, but it seems to take quite a while to define, to really understand, what I was telling them. That kind of stuff around expectations, as you mentioned, communication, speed. I think there's usually often still things you can say about that, even if it isn't as definitive as, my computer wasn't working, I asked you for help, and my computer still isn't working, and I'm giving you a really bad negative review where you might say, okay, we're really sorry, we'll fix the computer. I think you can still say, yeah, thank you for the feedback, we understand it, and we're going to discuss as a team and make sure we do better in the future. Even something like that, I think, can be a good response to the customer. And the more that as long as you actually do that and you act on it, they will see, I think, they even if it's a fairly broad topic, people skills kind of topic, if you're genuinely doing these things, customers will notice and it will increase their confidence over time. All right, so yeah, moving on to then monthly reporting. So something, or monthly, I'm saying monthly here, could also be quarterly, or you could do monthly and quarterly. But we look at our NPS responses every month, actually. So my colleague prepares a report. I've got some CSAT ones here. in the picture, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So we do a monthly NPS report, Net Promoter Score, and we look at, what was the overall metrics, the NPS score, also things like the response rate, just the actual raw number of responses, because that gives you an idea of comparison. And we look at things like the change from the month before. We do highlights of the customer comments. There's not necessarily time or space to go through every single comment. You know, because you should have already been responding to those comments as they came in. But we know what were the highlights, good, middling, bad. And then, what's really important is analysis of the key trends. So are you seeing that lots of the people are happy are mentioning this area, and lots of the people who are unhappy, there's this particular theme or two themes that keep on coming up, and taking the time to sit down and really look through your responses is really important for doing that, because that is where you can really start to see what are the larger issues, what are the trends in my company, and how my customers feel about my company. That we can act upon, right? And then takeaways and next steps. And this is where, as I say, you might, or you should start to generate kind of larger projects for your company. So we look at the NPS monthly, as I say. We also look at our scores on a quarterly basis. So, with things like the CSAT, we report or we discuss negative and neutral reviews every single week. But we also have a larger target for our scores on a month-to-month basis. And if we think we've got a problem, we might go beyond just a little, not a little, but a fairly quick, things that let's update this bit of documentation, let's improve this saved answer. We might take a step back and say, you know what, we actually need to take on a bigger project, like a project for the quarter, to improve this area. And we've done this, we've done this in the last, just in this year. In fact, we found that we'd got a run of particularly action neutral responses where we realized there were kind of some communication issues, especially around diagnosing issues and like opening up tickets and getting into the discussion with the customer. And then at the other end, actually closing it in a satisfactory manner. So then we had a bit of work to go, okay, what was the trend here? What connected these tickets? And what do we need to do? We need to, kind of define some processes around what we do when a new ticket comes in better. We need some better, language, some better training for the team in like how to get a customer talking to help them give us the information, help us diagnose the problem more effectively. And we need to be better when we close tickets at explaining like what we have done and what are the next steps if there are any. And I think it worked as well. We can see from the results that our responses and scores have improved as a result of that. And I'm just checking to see if we had any more questions come in. Okay. So now, so that's, I've been kind of talking about things in fairly, just kind of giving you an overview, really. As I say, please, at the end, I'll show you kind of contact details. We'll drop some links into the chat. Get in touch, because I can actually send you, more information. I can even send you sort of like a template for you to use to help you kind of create these reports, or we can get in a call and just talk it through. Great. Yeah. So Marissa's comment is really good, actually, because I'm just about to jump over then into Smilback itself. So to make this a little bit more practical then, and talk specifically about some of the things you can do inside of Smilback. So let's talk about CSAT first. So CSAT is our survey that runs on a ticket by ticket basis. If you have ever used Smilback, you're using CSAT, I'm sure. If you haven't yet used Smilback, this is very simple. Each time you solve a customer's issue, you send them a survey with 3 faces, green, yellow, red, happy, neutral, sad, or negative, and they just click and they write a comment. And in terms of kind of understanding these larger trends here, a very quick thing you can do, each day, each week, each month, is you can use Smilebox filters to help you focus in on these. So what I'm going to do now is, as you can see, we've got the filters box here on the left of the screen. I'm going to deselect the positive reviews. So now we get the people who weren't happy. And you can further go down by this comments here, comments filter, and do only the reviews of comments. And as you might have already noticed, most of these have a tag underneath them, which relates to what is written in the comment. And you can add it, you don't have to, you could add it as well, if they didn't write a comment originally, but you spoke to them and you found out more information. So I'm just going to go ahead then and take this first one as an example. Yeah, and this was the one we were looking at earlier. I don't think the engineer really knew what he was doing. So if you click in this tags box here, you can see we've actually already got some options saved. So these are the tags we have used before. And what I'm going to do then is tag solution. So the actual solution we offered seems like that wasn't good enough. And also probably communication. They didn't feel confident. They weren't given the impression that your staff knew what they were doing with this problem. So let's do that as well. And then click save. And so when you start to do that, that's you analyzing this, right? You're looking through this and you're trying to connect these different reviews and these different comments into larger themes. And we know from our own experience using this, from talking to customers and them talking about the feedback they get, there's some pretty, the same things tend to come up a lot, right? That would be like the quality of the solution. The customer got in touch, they had a problem. Was this problem actually solved or not? Speed. If you do things quickly, people like it. And if you do things slowly, they don't like it. And I think that's true of basically customer service in any field, any type of business. Communication, always a huge thing, good and bad. If you communicate well, people are more likely to be happy. If you communicate people badly, they have to chase you for updates. You send them answers they don't understand, they'll be unhappy. So you'll probably find that you can you might not need that many different tags or categories. You probably find that you've got some pretty consistent themes over time. So by tagging, and actually you can, there's no reason not to tag good comments as well. You can even use the same tags, as I say. You can look at, are people saying good things about the speed of our response, or are they saying bad things about the speed of our response? And that's the kind of thing you can draw out in your monthly or quarterly reports, and use that as a guide to acting and knowing what you need to improve, with your team in terms of training, processes, resources. And I'm just looking at this comment then from Marissa. For neutral and negative responses, we use type, subtype, and item in ConnectWise to match with Smileback so as to track these in Bright Gauge. Yes, that's a great comment, Marissa. Thank you. So yeah, inside your ticketing system, there's also going to be options there. So Marissa was talking about ConnectWise. I think that's probably what most of you use, but there are similar things like tagging or types available in, I think, most ticket software, where you can put that information in, and you can in fact use things like Smileback's automations to update your ticket. So you can actually submit survey responses, or add notes, add tags. It varies slightly depending on the ticketing system, but we have some kind of automation available for all the different ticketing systems we work with. Yeah, and Marissa also mentioned Bright Gauge. So that was another thing. Is if we go on the integrations menu here, Smileback integrates with reporting and BI tools like Bright Gauge, sorry, like Power BI, and these can also help you to build reports to help you analyze this information on a larger scale. And as you'll see in the chat now, we are dropping in some help center articles that go into more detail about some of the things I'm talking about. Then if we go and overlook at Net Promoter Score, then so this is something you may be using, you may have used before outside of Smileback. You may not have used it, but you've probably received a Net Promoter Score survey. Um, that's the question that asks, how likely are you to recommend, this company, Southwest IT, Acme widgets to a friend or colleague, peer, and then you answer on a scale from 0 to 10. The great thing about NPS is it can be good for getting at kind of larger issues because you're not just asking about one interaction. How did we do on a service ticket? Or, how was your shopping experience today? It's, what do you think about this company overall? And it's also quite, it has a bit of a higher bar as a question because it's asking how likely are you to recommend this company? Not just are you happy? Would you actually tell another person, I like this company and you should use them too? So if you use it in conjunction with CSAT, you're getting kind of a much wider scope. They're both good surveys individually, but together they're really, really powerful. So inside NPS, then, if we look at NPS responses here, we also have the filter potential. And just like as we were looking at, you can look at just the people who weren't happy. For NPS, that's the detractors and passives. And you can do the same sort of thing when you look at the responses of, let's just look at the people who, sorry, let's look at people who did leave comments, and then you can analyze that. You can also, another thing to mention actually is you can also export both CSAT and NPS as a CSV. That's actually probably the simplest way, but we have those integrations that allow you to get this out on a more an ongoing basis. And one more thing to mention is that we have an API. So if you don't use one of the integrations we have, or you find it's not working for you, there are some limitations, because obviously we can't control what a third party provider does and doesn't do. So if you want to build like really kind of custom reporting, we do have an API, and that's something we can help you with. So that's a little look at how to actually do this inside of Smileback. But I really want to stress that I can go through this with you in detail. I can, me or my colleague Yuria, who's the person who's running the chat today, we can get on a call and really talk about this in detail. We can give you an in-depth demo. We can answer your questions. We can give you advice that's, specific to your company. And something we are increasingly trying to do is provide things like benchmarking. You should see that in our next newsletter. Provide actual templates you can use. I mentioned already, provide you with text to respond to your customers with things like, a layout for reports. So that's the kind of thing we can send to you. Okay, we've just got another question then. Okay, so Jason's asking about, if NPS campaign went out, somebody provides the wrong response and requested a redo, is there the chance to resend the survey to someone who already submitted? There's not exactly a way to resend the same survey. But what I would say is the one NPS, generally you run it on a recurring basis, so you will get another chance after a little while. But if someone is in touch with you and they are saying, I'm really sorry, my mouse slipped, or I thought I was reviewing another company, and I want to change my response, is you, with CSAT and I think with NPS, I'll need to double check, you can actually edit the response, or you can even ask us and we can show you and help you edit the response. If they said like, I'm really sorry, I sent you a negative, I meant to send you another one, and they didn't change it themselves quickly, because they can do it if they respond quickly. If a little time has passed, there is a way of updating that, and we can help you with that. Yeah, so just then the key points is yeah, treat feedback as a resource to help you learn and grow. It's great for helping you act and respond quickly, day by day, but it's also a really good resource to take a step back and look at these things on a larger scale, and really keep improving your business and have a consistent practice for analyzing, acting on feedback. So that's what I've been talking about tonight, right? Is what do you do each week? What do you do each month? What do you do each quarter? And there's some fairly simple ways of just building this into your practice. It's going to vary depending on the company, of course, but there are some models out there that you can use. And to really, really stress, we can help you with consultation. We can provide you with templates. We can provide you obviously with help using Smileback itself. And just to say that, all support and all consultation, it's included in your subscription. So don't be afraid. We're not going to like charge you extra. We're not going to say, oh, you already asked us, we already did a call last month. Just ask us. The more you use Smileback, the more you get out of it, the better value it is. As for how you can do that, you'll see in chat there, my colleague Yuria has already dropped in some Calendly links. That's basically a schedule. You can just find a time there that works for you, book a call with us. You can reach us at help@smileback.com. And then we have our other resources. So help.smileback.com, that's our help center. That is the practical instructions, kind of step-by-step guides on how to use Smileback, all the different features, all the different parts of the app. And then we have blog.smileback.com, and that's where we put the more, kind of overall guidance. And we've put examples in the chat from both the Help Center and the blog tonight. So yeah, if anyone has any more questions, I'm just double checking the chat. Yeah, if anyone has any more questions, now's the time to ask it. No? Okay. So like I say, please make use of the email address. Please make use of the Calendly links. As I say, that's all in the chat window here. If you're watching a recording of this, it should just be right there on the page. Get in touch because we can talk to you about this, about any other thing to do with Smileback, anything else to do with feedback. Yeah, please get in touch. And if there are no more questions, then we'll end it here and I'll let you get on with the rest of your evening or the rest of your day if you're in Brazil. Okay then. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you, Sarah. And yeah, hopefully see you again soon.